let's go over this. Given f of x is 3x squared minus 2x plus 5, and g of x is 2x minus 1, we've been working with composite functions. Fog here is not an O, and it's not a multiplication. Hopefully you wrote it in a student-friendly way, f of g of x. What does that tell us? You're going to write the yellow one first. Three x squared minus 2 times x plus 5. The class, instead of writing x, you're going to write what? The g of x. So 3 times 2x minus 1 squared minus 2 times 2x minus 1 plus 5. So what we're doing is you're basically putting in this function into your f function. Now we need to expand this, so I can color code this. So 2x minus 1 squared is your FOIL. I don't use FOIL, I use a box. So you have two of those expressions, 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. Class 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Multiply. Negative 2x. Multiply. Multiply. So now from the blue, we have 3 times the quantity 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. So I just multiplied, that's 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. And then here I'm going to distribute the negative 2. Comes a negative 4x plus 2 plus 5. And then I'm just going to go ahead and distribute the 3 here. Class, what do I get? 12x squared minus 12x plus 3. And then all this just comes down. And then we're just looking for anything that is like terms. There's nothing like terms. So when you guys have a lot of terms, I like to put little like check marks above them to know that I took care of it. Circle like terms or use symbols if you want to. Class, negative 12 minus 4. Is that what you wanted? Negative 12 minus 4. 3 plus 2 plus 5. And that's our answer.
I can simplify it, right?
Raise your hand if you got that as your answer.
Can I simplify it?
Can you simplify it more?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
All by 2?
If you want to factor out of 2?
No, divide it all by 2. So it's going to be 6x power 2 minus 8x plus 5.
I'm probably going to keep this one because it's kind of like, what's the final answer? And I want to see like a big polynomial. Some hints for you is that when you have an x out here, that basically kind of tells you your answer is going to have an x in it. Okay? Alright, let's try B. Girls, tell me how to write this student friendly. And girls, what's the first thing? What color? Pink or yellow? Do the pink. Girls, what is the g function?
2x minus 1.
And boys, what do I put in that parentheses there? Boys, what am I going to write there? What is f of x?
3x squared minus 2x plus 5.
Boys, how would I simplify that? You don't need the box method here because you're essentially distributing. If you did the box method, it's just kind of like 2, and then your polynomial. And why I keep using the boxes is like it's an area model. It's area. Multiply. Boys, go ahead and distribute.
6x squared minus 4x.
Is that your final answer, boys?
Now you can factor that.
Here's a common mistake for students in years past. They forget about the -1. Don't forget that. So just because you're distributing the 2, don't forget the -1. Boys, when you combine like terms, what do you get?
6x squared minus 4x
Plus 9. Raise your hand if you got that. Good job.
Question number 15. Let's find fog. Question. Which one is in the inside? F or G? The G, we'll call this one blue here, is in the inside. Call this one green. So really what we're doing is F of G of X. And G of X is equal to 4x plus 1. 4x plus 2. So that means in my f function, every time I see x, we're going to put in there 4x plus 2. So I have 3 times 4x plus 2 squared plus 2 times 4x plus 2 minus 1. This one I'm going to simplify over here. 4x plus 2 times 4x plus 2 is going to be my box here in yellow. You have 2 of those expressions by multiplication. 16x squared, 8x, 8x, and 4. Alright, so we just got this box. Let's combine like terms. 16x squared. Eight x plus 8x is 16x. And there's the 4. And then we just distribute here, and you'll get this. Now I'm going to need to distribute here. So that'll become 48x squared plus 48x plus 4. And you no longer need the parentheses, so you'll just drop down all of this. And then we'll just combine like terms, so nothing here. These are my x's, so that'll become 56x. This one should have been a 12. So 12 plus 4 plus -1 will be 15. And this will be our answer.
Let's do this together. You guys tell me what to write. What letter do I write first? G. And what goes inside? F of x. So our f of x is equal to what?
3x plus 2x.
Pick your favorite color. If I just write the g of x, basically for every x value now, let's write that again, g of f of x. That basically says for every x value, we're going to write what? F of x. 4 times f of x plus 2. Class, what is f of x? It's right here in the orange box, right? So we're going to write 4 times. Remember, anytime you do a substitution, you're doing in parentheses. 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. Don't forget that plus 2 out here. And then we just simplify. Just going to distribute. Class, what do I get? 12x squared positive 6 or 8? 8. 4 times negative 1. And then we just combine like terms right there. That gives us what? That's a plus 2. Minus 2. So our answer is g of f of x equals 12x squared plus 8x minus 2. Okay, so we have two functions, f of x and g of x, and it tells us to find f of g of x. Now, when you guys see the fog, okay, it does not look student-friendly. So how do you write this as student-friendly? Put your finger on the one you wrote before. And this is how I would write it. I would write, the f is here on the left side, so there it is, right? And then I would write g of x. In class, we talked about which direction do you work from? Right to left. So that means you're kind of starting with the g of x first. What is g of x, class? The square root of x plus 1. Okay, here's the hard part now. What is f of x? Okay, so what it's saying is, I'm going to write, in my function, I have the 2, but every x value, instead of putting an x here, this is my new x. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to put that pink up here. Now I have the square root of x plus 1. So what is fog? Fog is, the answer is a base of 2, and then the x1 is the square root of x plus 1. If I had to like super simplify it, it's just a bunch of substitutions. A bunch of substitutions, okay? Alright, let's try the next one. Girls, tell me how to write this in student-friendly. Okay, girls. What is your G? Whoops, wrong color.
Square root of x.
G is the square root of x plus 1. But boys, instead of writing the x here, what are we going to write there? We're going to write 2 to the x power. But don't forget, you still have that plus 1. So your answer is the square root of 2 to the x power plus 1. So composite functions, just do a bunch of substitutions.
I love math. You don't love math? What's wrong with you? I love math.
This one says g of f of x. Yesterday we learned that the closest one is in the inside. So f of x is inside. G of x is on the outside. Yesterday we basically learned that this is like a double substitution. How many substitutions, class? It's a double, so pick your favorite color. We said g of x was pink and yellow was the f of x. So basically in my function of g of x, we're going to be putting in x plus 5. So instead of f of x, it's x plus 5. Let's write g of x now, which is x minus 3. And every time I see x, we're not going to write x anymore. What are we going to write, class? X plus 5. So g of x plus 5, x plus 5 minus 3, and then we can just simplify. G of f of x. Class, do I need the parentheses here? And 5 and a negative 3 is 2. X plus 2 is the correct answer. Raise your hand if you got that. And the last one. C says f of g of 3. So let's write that in function notation. I'm going to take the function of f. F is on the outside. G of 3 is in the inside. So G of 3 means put in 3 for every x value for the function of g. So up here, instead of x minus 3, it'll be 3 minus 3. And 3 minus 3 is what, class? Alright, so now that we said 3 minus 3 is 0, basically what we're going to find is now f of 0. So here's my first substitution, and now is my second substitution. In my function of f, instead of writing x, I'm going to write 0. So now I have 0 plus 5, and that becomes 0 plus 5 is 5. So my answer there is 5. That's wrong. Double check there. G of 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. I'm going to put 0 into my function. Oh, 0, 5. Raise your hand if you got 5. Someone get a different answer? Oh, first part. You guys wanted the first one, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so we have f of x equals 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 1, and g of x equals 3x. The first problem says f of g of x. In this problem here, if you see parentheses or brackets, they're essentially the same thing. They're just grouping symbols. Okay? Yesterday we learned how you can rewrite this more in function notation. F is on the outside, and the inside is g of x. Here I like to do a substitution. Every time I see g of x, I can write 3x. I see gx class, what am I going to write? 3x. Let's write 3x. F of 3x. Now this says in the function of x, this is the f, right? Let's write that. F of x equals 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 1. Every time I see x now, I'm going to write what? 3x. So every time I see x, I'm going to write 3x. Don't worry about this side. Worry about over here. 2 times 3x cubed minus 3 times 3x squared plus 1. And then all we have to do now is just simplify. Be careful. Times 2 are exponents. Exponents by PEMDAS. 3x times 3x times 3x is 27x cubed. 3x times 3x is 9x squared plus 1. 2 times 27x cubed, 54x cubed. Multiply there, you get 27x squared, and you have the plus 1. So our final answer is f of g of x is equal to 54x cubed minus 27x squared plus 1.
Question number 18. Let's do Goff here. Question, which one's on the inside? The inside is on the right, is f of x. F of x is the inside. So essentially, f of x is 2x to the third minus 3x squared minus 1. G of x, we'll call blue. We're putting the green inside the blue. Green is going inside the blue. G of x is 3x. So all that is going to go towards my x. So now I have 3 times 2x to the third minus 3x squared minus 1. And all I have to do here is just distribute 6x cubed minus 9x squared minus 3 would be our answer.
Alright, and this problem tells us the function of f is e to the x power, and g of x is square root of x. Yesterday we learned the composition of functions, so let's rewrite this more in function notation. What letter goes on the outside? F or G? F goes on the outside. What goes on the inside? G is closest, so you can write it something like this. Sometimes they write with brackets. If you have too many parentheses, that's okay. Then we'll do g of x in pink. So that goes here. So basically in my function of f, I'm going to be writing the square root of x. So if I do that, f of x is e to the x power. And basically for every x now, instead of writing x, we're going to write what? E to the square root of x. And that's my answer. Raise your hand if you got that. So look, normally we write something like this, right? F of x, and we're basically saying now every x value we're going to put the square root of x. Well, there's the x, and we're going to put there a square root of x. Okay? Why is it the square root of x? Because that's what g is. Let's try another example. The e is part of the problem. Let's try another one. Class, tell me how to write this one over here. G goes on the outside. What goes on the inside? F of x. So basically it says in the function of g, you're going to replace every x value with whatever f of x is equal to. Okay? So, f of x is yellow. So in the function of g, every x value we're going to put in what? E to the x power. Okay? Watch. Here is the function of g. G of x equals the square root of x. Yes? And instead of writing x, we're going to write what? E to the x power. Instead of writing x, we're going to write e to the x power. And that's our answer right there. So basically, if I had to summarize, let's just say you were absent yesterday and you're like still kind of lost. You're basically just doing two substitutions.
Morning.
Alright, so I have three examples here of composite functions. It says given f of x is x plus 2 and g of x is 4 minus x squared, find fog of x, gof of x, and that says gof, but evaluate it at -2. Okay, let's do the first one. Let's write this in student friendly. F of what? G of x. And remember, we're kind of working from right to left. Do you see that? So basically, whatever my g function is, I'm going to put it into the f. Let's see if we can color code this. Maybe this will make sense. Let's pick g of x to be pink. Let's pick f of x to be yellow. Okay, so what does this mean? So let's draw the f first. Draw the f, input the f. So I have x plus 2. Do you see this? And instead of putting x there, I'm going to put whatever g of x is. What is g of x, class?
X minus 4 minus x plus.
4 minus x squared, and then I still have this plus 2 here. Do you see that? So we're, instead of saying f of x, any x value, we're going to put a g there. So I wrote x, f of x equals x plus 2. Instead of writing x there, we're writing 4 minus x squared. Now, I don't need the parentheses because there's no multiplication or minus sign here, so I can just drop the parentheses and combine like terms. 4 plus 2 is negative x squared plus 6 is our answer. F of g of x is negative x squared plus 6. Okay, let's run it back. Let's write it in student friendly. Tell me what to write. F, G, which one? G of what? F of x. What is your G function? Tell it to me. 4 minus x squared. And instead of writing x, what am I going to write, class? What's your f of x? X plus 2 squared. Uh-oh, uh-oh. What does x plus 2 squared mean? Can I distribute the 2? You can do that if it's a law of exponents, but you have a plus sign there. So what does x plus 2 mean? Squared. You have how many of them? You have 2 of them, right? I'm going to do a box. You can use foil. You're going to do the same thing. Essentially, you'll multiply first, and then you'll combine like terms. Which ones are like terms, class? So what do you get as your answer? X squared plus 4x plus 4. Uh-oh, red alert. Minus sign. What do you do with it?
Switch the signs.
You can switch the signs, or you can distribute a -1. So I get 4. What do I get? Negative x squared. -1 times 4x, class?
-4.
-4x. And -1 times 4? -4. And then we just combine like terms. Which ones are like terms? -4 and a -4, which equals 0. And then I'm just left with -x squared minus 4x. How do you know your answer is not going to be a number? Well, you're just working with a bunch of algebraic expression with variables. Does that make sense? Okay, last one. G of f equals -2. Let's write that. G of f of x. But really what they want us to do is, instead of just leaving this as x, you're going to put what? You're going to put a -2. Okay, so if I put in f of -2 into my function, f of x, way up there, is x plus 2. X plus 2. And so f of -2 is going to equal -2 plus 2 is 0. Okay, what do I do with the 0 now? What are we going to do with it? We put it inside your g of x value.
Can I leave it until I'm done and then?
Yeah. You can also think of the previous problem. We already kind of did the algebra. I'm just thinking, what happens if I made a mistake over there? That's all. So now that I have this 0 here, f of -2 equals 0, we're just going to put it into your function of g. So g of 0 equals 4 minus 0 squared. And 0 squared is 0. And 4 minus 0 is 0. So 0 is our answer. What did I do wrong? Duh. My fault. 4. 4 minus 0 is not 0, it's 4. Let me show you guys a different way of doing the problem. This -2, you can also put into, we already did this problem algebraically. Does that make sense up here? So you could have put in negative 2 squared is 4. Opposite of 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 2 is 8. So negative 4 plus 8 is positive 4. So 2 ways of getting the answer of 4.
Do you want to learn to love math again? Go to Mr. Ng's website or to his YouTube channel. He will teach you to learn to love math again. Mr. Ng, the #1 math teacher in the whole world.